You know what's more
Everything's paid for.
expensive? The marriage counseling. When you start your marriage off with $60,000 in credit card debt. And so it changes how you make decisions when you use your own money.
So Graham and Jack from the Iced Coffee Hour recently sat down with one of Dave Ramsey's proteges, George Kamel, and talked about what they described one of the best debt arguments ever that they've ever had on their show. And I want to play this clip from it and react to it, and then talk about my own journey with debt and the difference. Let's get into this.
So I saw a great reaction. I believe it was you and Ken who did this one. The person who was having a wedding, and they said, here's a life hack. You can put all of your expenses on the credit card, and now we got a free trip. And we got our honeymoon paid for with credit card points. I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking that's fantastic.
Right? It doesn't sound too bad, right? Pay everything on credit card, pay your wedding, or pay for your wedding with a credit card, and reap the rewards.
It's a great choice, because if you're going
to pay for a honeymoon.
If the budget is, let's say, $20,000, you can open up 3 to 4 credit cards, get the sign-up bonus on all of them. That's a free trip, free airfare, free hotel.
You know what's more
Everything's paid
expensive?
for.
The marriage counseling. When you start your marriage off with $60,000 in credit card
well,
debt at 24%.
But let's just
APR.
assume, okay, $60,000. I don't
He's assuming they're not going to pay it off, right?
know if that was the exact amount that they were spending. You could probably do that on $10,000 to $15,000. Get a totally free honeymoon paid for just by opening up the cards, getting the sign-up bonus. Let's say $15,000. If you're going to spend $15,000 anyway, and you're intentional about it, that's a free trip. That's a free.
Now that's the key word, intentional about it, as if you already have the money and you're going to pay it off.
The honeymoon. So it's saving you money at the end of the day.
Well, I got a free wedding, so I can't talk. But most people, when it comes to weddings,
And there's the key. Most people.
they're way overspending. And so if it's your money, if it's Graham's money from his bank account,
I like
from his
this
debit
argument.
card, you're going to look at that wedding very differently. You're going, let's actually get quotes from multiple florists and see what, and you may be entering this space soon where it's we got to start planning for this thing. And I'm not trying to spend 80 grand on a wedding to throw a party for other people. And so it changes how you make decisions when you use your own money. And
So I love that argument, because he's saying, hey, if you're using your own money, you're not going to use credit cards, and you have $15,000 to spend, you're going to be really smart with that. You're going to think through how you spend it, because it's coming right out of your account.
that's honestly the biggest reason I advocate for debit cards over credit cards, because it changed mentally. It's different when it's coming out of your bank instantly. You treat that differently than, well, I'll pay this off at the end of the month in bulk.
Yeah, you think
I think we're
about
getting
it
very
different.
nuanced here. Graham's trying to pull up specific examples and numbers and everything, exactly why it's better, and you're providing the psychology behind it all.
Right.
So
I don't know about the psychology, but it is practical what he's saying.
the fundamental difference here is that Graham thinks that if you are someone that's very diligent with their money, you go through your statements and you're intentional about everything, and you can remove your emotions from your finances, then yes, there's a net positive. And you're saying probably, right? Probably.
Well, most people
but-
think they're that person is the problem. We all put ourselves in that bucket of well, I'm the type of person, I'll never have a balance on my credit card. And we're $987 billion in credit card debt.
$987 billion in credit card debt. And that's the difference right there. What George is arguing is that most people think, or they say, or they feel like they're that person that's just going to pay it off. But the data shows different.
A nation. Average credit card debt, $6,000 a person. And so everyone started that journey going,
$6,000 a person is the average credit card debt.
well, yeah, I'm not going to be that guy. And all of a sudden you're that guy at 24% interest, and you're calling our show and you're like, I'm $130,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest.
Well, I
Help
feel
me.
like a lot of those are people who spent money they didn't have to begin with.
Yeah.
Like if you know,
course.
I have $5,000 in my
yes,
savings account, but I'm
obviously.
saying, but no, I think a lot of people just put the money in the card expecting I could make the minimum payment. It's not going to be that bad. I'll think about it from a year from now. I think very few people see I have $5,000 in savings. I'm going to spend $2,000 anyway. I'm going to put it on the card and pay it off immediately. I have a feeling a lot of people say I have $1,000 in cash. I have a $5,000 thing I'm going to spend money on. Let me just put it on the card and pay it off later.
I'll say this. I don't think I would be a net worth millionaire today if I still had my credit cards. I think using a debit card changed my mentality, and it changed my goals to where it caused me to spend way more intentionally, be on a budget, and win more when it comes to money.
You can't really argue that. Like if you are spending your own money, like it's not a credit card, it's not something you got to pay later, you are going to be more intentional with how you spend the money. It's a great argument. It's a great argument.
And speed up that process.
Can you admit, if you have technically on paper somebody who can do every single thing right and play the game, they would be better off financially using credit?
They can benefit from it.
Yeah.
And that's true. Like, I'm not saying that there's people out there who, people who have become millionaires and they don't have debt and they have emergency funds who they can use credit cards and pay them off every month, and they're going to be fine. And I'm not mad at anyone who uses credit cards.
And by the way, you don't have to be a millionaire to be one of those people that pay off your credit card every month.
I'll be friends with you all
And I'll talk to you about my story here in a minute.
day long, but the data is too clear to me, and not just the data, but the reality of it, because we take the brunt of people who are struggling, that everyone has the mentality that they're not going to be that guy.
They deal with those people every day that call in.
But then life hits and they become that guy. And so, the credit card rewards, I just looked into Capital One's financial statement.
Check this out. This is all about credit card rewards here.
For 2022, because another angle on this is who is paying for the rewards. And a lot of people are like, well,
Who is paying for the rewards? Check this out.
the interchange fees, when you go and you spend money, it's, 3% is charged to the business and that gets passed on in rewards. I looked at the numbers, and Capital One's revenue, over 15 billion came from interest, which is people who couldn't pay the balance, interest and fees.
15 billion from Capital One came in interest of people who couldn't pay the balance. Oh my God.
Only about 6 billion came from the other revenue through interchange fees.
So 15 billion versus 6 billion.
And so about 2/3 of the rewards mathematically is paid for by people who are hurting and struggling and paying interest. And so you're not a bad person if you reap the rewards. But for me personally, it just feels icky to me.
So he's saying, even if you're a person who reaps the rewards, right, who does pay it off, that money is coming from potentially, mathematically at least, when he does the numbers, people who are in debt and can't afford to pay it off. So they're paying late payments, they're paying interest, and that money is being used to turn around and pay your rewards.
I don't want to support a system that operates in that way.
Yeah.
I think also there's a little level of confirmation bias between you two, because just the people you surround yourself by, everyone that calls in, has basically been demolished by credit and everything. But Graham and I, on the other hand, the people...
Confirmation bias is that you think how the same way of the people that you interact with regularly. So you have confirmation and you have a bias because those are the types of people that you are interacting normally. And they both have different camps of people that they interact with normally.
That we associate with, a lot of the people we discuss, because it's just a part of our circle. They've done it extremely well and it's benefited them a ton. So I think there's also just a difference in culture and the people that
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you're speaking to this percent of people who are like the uber finance nerds.
See, and that's why he's saying that's why they don't promote using credit cards for the points and paying it off, because there's this many people numerically, and the data shows that will actually pay it off month to month.
We are talking to every American, all walks of life. You come to us, we're going to help you. And that's the thing, is our plan works for everyone. It may not be the fastest as far as could you go win the lottery tomorrow and could you get really good at playing stocks? You could. But the chances of you getting burnt on that versus winning in the long term is much higher. And so that's where we just go, I'm not a risk guy, and I want to win. As stupid as I am, I still want to win financially. And so I love that this plan works for people across the spectrum.
Yeah.
Hey, what a great argument. You've got one side that says, hey, never get into debt because or never use debt as a tool, right? To get rewards and such, because most people can't. And then you got the other side that says, well, if you're disciplined, you can, and you could actually get free money that way. And I grew up not understanding finances at all. I got all kinds of credit cards from J.C. Penney's, to Sears, to Kohl's, to Burlington Coat Factory. I mean, you name it. I had about 10 credit cards and just thousands of dollars in debt. And it took years to pay off. And then as I was getting closer to paying off, I went through this dark season of my life. I went through a divorce and ended up having a mortgage that I couldn't afford on my own, and just really had to, at the end of the day, declare bankruptcy. And this was horrible. It took over 7 years, by the way. So for those of you who are thinking about filing bankruptcy as opposed to trying your best to pay it off, it took a long time. Now my credit score is over 800. It's great. My wife right now, got remarried has helped me kind of navigate for years of the first few years of our marriage of me not using a credit card. Everything was cash. Everything, we paid off cars, never had debt. It's amazing, right? And to this day, we do that. Now, a few years ago, I decided that, hey, the neural pathways, right, in my brain are strong enough now to get a credit card, use it, pay it off monthly, because I know what it's done. And I was afraid of them, to be honest with you. I didn't even want to get a credit card again. But the neural pathways, the new way of me thinking is that I will spend on this, I will pay it off, and I will reap the rewards. Now, again, one of the reasons why Dave Ramsey and George Kamel don't tell everybody to do this is because everybody says they're going to do it, but very few are able to do it. Whereas Jack and Graham, they're saying, hey, get the rewards, but their mindset is different already. So you have two different mindsets. You have to decide if you're strong enough to pay it off, if you're strong enough, you have the funding behind you to be able to do this and to stay disciplined, or you're going to end up like most Americans, in the average American being in $6,000 in debt. I want to know what you think. Please comment below. I'm going to do another video on some of the biblical principles that George Kamel shares with the guys in the Iced Coffee Hour. And I'll see you on the next one.